Welcome to Windows on the World. We're going to do a follow-up now to shows that have also had follow-ups. We started with BBC Lies and Lambeth Corruption with Piers Corbyn, which is where we found out a lot of what's going on locally. This does tie in to every single local authority in the country. So it also means it ties into you out there, the viewer. And there's also another two shows called UK Housing Crisis and Regeneration Exposed, and Social Cleansing and Housing Crisis Explained, which contain essential information as to how the public are being locked out of decisions at a local level. I'm here with Piers Corbyn and Colin Crilly. First of all, we're going to get some updates from Piers. So, Piers.
Yes, more and more people suffering in the housing crisis are starting to realise we've got to have a big united campaign in every area and nationally to defend all housing rights and fight for decent housing for all. There's no reason in the world why everybody in Britain shouldn't be properly, fairly, reasonably housed at low cost. The money's there, it's a rich country. However, we have vultures attacking us and their agents in town halls. So we've got to build these united campaigns. Now, I'm going to say a few things about what's happening right now, and hopefully we're going to take some of these ideas forward to Sadiq Khan, the newly elected Mayor of London, and well done. And he was elected on the basis of ending the Tory housing crisis, and so it ain't going to be done easily, and we're going to have united action to get him to do practical matters. Right now, though, I'm going to talk specifically just about a few things happening in South London, although the whole of London has got issues like this in every part. In Southwark, a very important thing going to come up very soon is on the Aylesbury estate. There was a compulsory purchase order inquiry happening, and the report from the inspector was meant to have come out before the mayoral and council elections, but it was postponed because of the election. So we don't know what's in it, but we were told it's going to come out this month during May. Now maybe they'll postpone it again because of the European referendum, I don't know. But whatever's in that, it is very, 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 very important, because we know that in Cressingham Gardens in Lambeth, a judicial review found that the council had behaved illegally by lying to councillors about the relative cost of demolition.
Yes, that can be seen in that show. BBC
That's right.
Lies
but
and Lambeth
see, the
Corruption.
point is, yes, exactly. The point is, we know they also lied in Southwark to get the go-ahead for the Aylesbury estate. So we want to see what this inspector says. If she doesn't find in favour of the people, i.e. there's something wrong, then we will go ahead and have our own new ballot on the estate, and we know that at least 80% of the people are going to say no to continuing that development. And we'd be coupling that sort of thing with building a big community defence group in the whole of the Old Kent Road area, where we understand and can see it, that the council want to have about equivalent of 5 Haygate destructions of communities and theft by international capitalists and national capitalists as well. And we'll take forward those demands that we put forward in a number of meetings that have been read out before. We'll take those along to Sadiq Khan with a deputation from Southwark, but we want to broaden that out to have all sorts of people, including people involved in bringing empty properties into use. Because actually there's enough empty properties in London to solve the housing crisis if they're brought into use. And if Sadiq Khan wants to do something quickly, he's going to have to use those properties rather than do deals with speculators, which is suicide. Okay. Now that's basically points about Southwark. Lambeth, the Cressingham Gardens issue is still boiling over, and my understanding is the tenants there are going to take the council back to court for tricking them and so forth, and just doing a U-turn to try and repeat the lies that they've already got imposed upon the people. The next council going around South London, of course, is Wandsworth, where we're going to hear some more in a second, but I would just say that the Alton estate in Wandsworth, I believe, is the diamond tiara on the top of the whole of London's housing stock, which the speculators want to rip off, because that estate is a beautiful estate. It's right beside Richmond Park. It's the cleanest air in London, and the super rich want it. They want to destroy it totally and build not just houses for the rich, they want to build houses for the super rich there. I'm certain of that, because a penthouse suite overlooking Richmond Park will be worth billions. Well, maybe not billions, but millions and millions. And that is what those dodgy Tory councillors want, along with some of the Labour councillors are good, some of them look a bit weak-kneed to me, but quite frankly we have to have them all accountable. So that's what I've got to say about the Alton estate, and I wish every strength to their elbow to fight against that development.
Bringing back accountability is the most important thing. So Colin, tell us about the Alton Activity Centre.
Well, the first thing I should say is that we are in Wandsworth, and Wandsworth are one of the most vicious councils there are. I think possibly with the exception of Barnet, who I think are also pretty savage. Yes. They take glee in socially cleansing the borough, pricing people out. And I'm with Wandsworth Anti-Austerity campaign, and we've been fighting them for many years, thank you.
Absolutely.
And as Piers says, the Alton Activity Centre, there you go, Save Our Alton Activity Centre campaign. Just a little sort of...
Yeah, give us a bit of the backstory.
Well, like Piers said, it's one of those sort of areas that they really have their eye on. It was only in January this year where the sort of local residents found out that the centre in question, the Alton Activity Centre, the charity that run it, called Spurgeon's, their contract was going to come to an end, I think in March, April. They weren't sure what this meant. They didn't know if it was going to be closed or if there was going to be a replacement, but it turned out there was not going to be a replacement. And since Spurgeon's have been there, they've supplied lots more services that weren't there originally. So things like Zumba classes, Muslim women classes, there's homework clubs for the children. So there was additional things that people eventually became to rely upon, which all of a sudden were in jeopardy. The parents kind of got together with the campaign and the group that I'm with, petitioned, lobbied the council, went to a council meeting, and I think we had a coachload of parents go there one day. And it was the first time that a lot of these parents had come into any kind of contact with kind of council and their kind of behaviour. And they were so appalled by what they heard, the council really just didn't want to know. The gallery was completely full up with parents, and after a while the parents made their voices heard. They heckled throughout, they shouted, they ignored the calls to be quiet, and in the end I think we sort of stood up and sort of said, right, we have a coach to catch, we know what you're going to say, we're going to give up on you, and we basically walked out and left the council and left them embarrassed. So that's what we did. We've gone through all the official channels. They've still gone ahead and cancelled the contract. And I think at the end of March they had a sort of farewell party. One more thing to say, at the end of the farewell party, knowing that it was the last day that the centre was officially open, a lot of the parents actually sat in and didn't leave. And for about 5 or 6 hours they basically just stood there, and the council panicked.
Well, maybe occupy it, take it over.
Yeah, I think that kind of crossed their minds, but I think they kind of lost their nerve and didn't sort of stick it out. But I think even the fact that they were willing to do that completely terrified the council, and also because...
But libraries in North London were being brought back into use by that type of approach.
Exactly, and also the Carnegie Library in Lambeth, there was an occupation. Funny enough, the following day their occupation happened, and obviously it was more successful. But I think because my group, Wandsworth Anti-Austerity Campaign, have done an occupation, or at least we participated in an occupation with the Occupy movement at the old Battersea Park Adventure Playground, I think as soon as the Wandsworth Council realised that the parents had done something likewise, they were like, that group are at it again. So they were
solidarity scares them.
Well, they're scared of people getting organised. That's what it is.
But to cut a long story short, they say the The charity have ended their contract. They have left. The replacements that the council have put in place are a fraction of what was there before. So much so that the building itself is actually not in use at the moment. So the only children that can use it are restricted to the grounds outside. The staff aren't as qualified. There's no food or drink for the children to have. And they don't even cater for the under 8. So anyone who's sort of 8 and under, their parents have to go with them anyway. So what's there is a pathetic excuse for a service.
Yeah.
And then they'll say it's not used enough. See, it's just a device to undermine the community spirit there.
Yes.
I mean,
and
my son used to use that thing. It was a great little place.
And there's also a group called the Alton Regeneration Watch, because this whole area is being regenerated, socially cleansed as we call it. And there's 2 tower blocks that are right next to where the centre is, which are going to be demolished. So there's no sort of surprise that this centre, they've obviously got their eye on it, that's going to be next. So if they can kind of sort of underfund it, make out that it's not being used and then demolish it, then that's the next place that they're going to build or sort of put new flats on. So it's a long-term project, and it's just playing itself out.
And what they are very scared of is, as I say, people getting organised and people seeing through this agenda that's being played out, because that's what it is. And it's the same in every borough and every part of the country. So everyone's going to see these things happening in the same way where they live. There's no difference. It's not just one corrupt council, is it? That's the important thing to get over.
There's so many direct comparisons. You see, the first big attack they have there is on a community centre. And it was exactly the same on the Aylesbury. The first big attack was on a big community centre. They said, oh, it's underused, close it. And that was also the first building they demolished.
Yes,
just to make it clear to people, you are going.
Yes.
It's
to stop people congregating and gathering.
Of course.
Something, it's in an article called Big Society Change Agents on windowsontheworld.net, and it was from a document that came out in 2011 from a company really called Unlimited, and we've done quite a lot of stuff on this. They're training social entrepreneurs, which you can find on Windows on the World in that article, Big Society Change Agents. But the quote was this, and it was in Parliament, and it's on that article, you can find it in there. It said, the result of the cuts will be one of anger, the degree of which is yet to be realised. The idea of the big society is to galvanise that energy. That's what they're doing. They're closing down your remedy, which would be your local community centre. They're bringing in people who are making it look as though you agree to these things. And these people are employed by your council, and they're called change agents. So, what can we do about it, Piers?
Well, there's one word. No. You just say no, 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 as this great crowd have done in Alton. But you see, the next steps are the hard ones, but they almost got to a point of occupation there. I mean, but that type of approach is going to have to be. It's going to be people taking over areas and just making it impossible for these speculators to pass. And then, if you can hold the politicians to account, you have to take away the ability or the legality of the speculators to plunder. I mean, that is what the root of it is. That's the driving force. International capital wanting to socially cleanse London, and that is the root of it, and we've got to stop it.
We also need to make the point that these are attacks on, the ones of anti-austerity group, which I'm part of, like a lot with other groups in other boroughs, it's to protect public services.
Absolutely.
The public services,
Absolutely.
one by one, through the austerity argument, which is bogus, are closing down these centres, saying we can't afford it. But what they're doing is they're giving away their responsibility to us in running these centres. So they should be running them for us at sort of cheap or free prices. So people can use them, everybody can use them, and then they're sort of handing them over to charities or to private groups. So they're accountable.
Private groups. A lot of it is a privatisation agenda.
But their accountability is kind of being sort of like removed in this process, a piece at a time. I mean, throughout the years, we've had to tax. I mentioned the adventure playground at Battersea Park. They said they couldn't afford to pay 3 full-timers to man it, so they built a replacement which didn't need to be manned. They've also got rid of the youth centres. They've handed them over to a charity called For Children that run them on a shoestring budget. All the other adventure playgrounds in Wandsworth were knocked down. When they knocked down the adventure playground in Battersea Park, this shows about democracy. 86% of the public in the council's own survey opposed the plans to do what they did, and they went ahead and did it anyway.
This is what we've got to get over to people, isn't it?
Yeah.
That their remedy and their rights are being removed. It's not even just a remedy anymore, because that's always happened in, people have always been steamrolled by local councils. That's been going on a long time. But now your rights are being removed.
Yeah.
On the back of that, and that is where people really need to get together. So you need to form local groups and actually take a look at what's going on, because these people are not there to help you. No longer can you rely on local authorities to be acting in the public interest.
Speak out while you still can.
Exactly.
I mean, to add to that list, libraries, 1 o'clock clubs, school crossing patrols, they make the school pay for their own school crossing patrols, Meals on Wheels.
Oh, right.
They've all been attacked as well. So the libraries actually in Wandsworth, all the libraries in Wandsworth are now run by an organisation based in Croydon. So all these things that we assume are free. I mean, also, they have the lowest council tax in the land, or I think it might be the second lowest now. But what do you get for that council tax? Everything is being removed now. You're having to sort of pay for things that you didn't have to pay for before.
Exactly.
And say you have to sort of protect them. I think this group, if I haven't mentioned it before, that group obviously have sort of woken up and realised that their centre is under attack. But this is an ongoing trend.
Yeah,
it's been going on for many years.
Exactly. And when they say austerity, they mean taking away more and more of your money and taxing you more. That's really what it means. It doesn't mean that the country hasn't got the money. That's not. It's everything's backwards. It's just they're saying that no, it's going to be austerity for you. That's what they mean.
Another thing to add, a lot of these are obviously sort of children's services like libraries, venture playgrounds, the community centre. The lady who oversees a lot of the children's services in Wandsworth is called Councillor Cathy Tracy. That's Cathy Tracy. Recently there was an Ofsted report, and I think they received the worst possible result that they could have received, and their argument was, well, we didn't know that they were coming, so we couldn't prepare.
Didn't give us time to hide.
But the punchline is that Councillor Tracy was then given an OBE in the New Year's Honours list.
Oh.
So you get rewarded for
For not knowing they're coming.
imposing these cuts and and doing what you're told, and then you get a pat on the back and an OBE. So.
Well, that's right. Well, it's time to remove these people from office and us to let's take our country back, to quote a cliche.
Yes, and get rid of the New Year's Honours as well.
Yeah, I think this underlying heavy ideology to push these things forward. I mean, the first one is that somehow all these people on council housing, social housing, or using a lot of these facilities are somehow scroungers, you know what I mean? They're lower people, and they need to be shoved aside for advancing the world.
They deserve it.
You see. Now, that, of course, is a total lie. I mean, the people on these estates, a lot of council tenants, housing association tenants, are really doing all sorts of, quite important jobs in London anyway.
Well, probably the most important.
Well, they're the most important, but I mean, they're not all poor. They're definitely not all on benefit. I mean, only a small
not
number.
everybody can get involved in financial fraud, can they?
They're just like everybody else.
Yes.
So we oppose that ideological divide and rule. But the big underlying thing is that somehow austerity is somehow necessary for this economy, this one of the richest countries in the world. Now, what is going on, of course, with the capitalists that run Britain and their cronies in international things, is they're competing with other international cartels, and they see they can make money by basically destroying the very rich infrastructure in Britain, doing asset stripping, closing down industries, selling off estates, selling off bits of the NHS, all that sort of stuff. They have an agenda to do that, and as my brother says, austerity is not a necessary thing. It's a political choice. It's a political con in order to justify privatisation and making the super rich richer. Now look, in the long run, or even in the medium run, a trajectory to make the super rich richer and the rest of us poorer will explode, because already 0.01% own maybe half the world. I mean, this is complete insanity. It cannot go on. It must be stopped. And we're in an era now, this decade now is where, if this isn't stopped, the world will go into, well, I don't know, barbarism.
Well, it's a corporatisation of everything. It takes away all the individuality, and it basically it cuts off your ability to enjoy your life. That's really what it does.
This whole idea of like caring for other people, it's kind of been like sort of, brushed out of people's minds. It's like, no, you're only supposed to care for yourself. You shouldn't care for the community. You shouldn't care for other people. If they have problems, it's their own fault. They must have deserved it. I mean, what you were saying about these are sort of regular people, not scroungers, and that's absolutely true. Some of these parents that involved are fantastic. There was one of the parents is actually a nurse for the NHS,
Yeah, of course.
and has been there a long time. And she said, if this continues, she will have to kind of give
Absolutely.
up or vastly reduce her hours. And this is a nurse, for NHS that we deserve. We were doing a street stall actually, and one of the sort of locals came up to me and sort of said, well, why do you want to save that centre? And I said, well, it's a community centre, everyone benefits. He goes, well, I don't go there, my children don't go there. Why should I pay my council taxes for something that I don't use?
Me.
That is the media.
Libraries. Well, I don't read.
Yeah, well, that's where they've recruited those sort of people. That's what I talk about, change agents. They're changing things, because people are really easy to divide and rule when they're arrogant and stupid, basically.
But they don't see the benefit of something that they don't actually directly use.
That's right, of course.
But they feel, why should I? So the media have done a fantastic job, which is why we're here, trying to get another message across.
We're trying to do a fantastic job. So we're going to come back after the break with more news and what's going on with the Alton Activity Centre.
One of our local councillors was able to find out that funding for the support of the contract with Spurgeons, who run the services here at the Alton Activity Centre, was due to be ended in March of this year. That has had a great impact on the whole area. They're very worried that the extensive range of activities, both for children after school and weekends and holidays, will be withdrawn, plus the additional supporting network for the parents.
I think Councillor Tracy has mentioned that some of the things that go on in here could be picked up by the local schools using money that the schools have, but what's going to happen next year is most of the schools in this borough are going to be faced with massive funding cuts. There will not be the facilities in the school to pick up, well, certainly the expertise that these people have and the knowledge of the children that they deal with. And I think that's the important thing. And it's been repeated all over the council, getting rid of the adventure playground in Battersea Park. There were skilled workers there who knew the children very well. All of these things are more valuable than you can put money on. That's the important thing, and it's the same with the people who work here. They know the children, they know their needs, and that's the value of a place like this.
Wandsworth Borough Council is planning to close the Alton Activity Centre in Roehampton in the latest string of cuts, prompting concerned residents to take to the streets in protest.
Central government are always on about fighting crime, people crime. Well, this is a baseline to stop kids playing on the streets, and they're taking that away from us. To see it come to an end will be destroying. I mean, this is a safe haven for my children to play. That means that I can drop my youngest son, who's now 10, who uses it. I can drop him and then I can go home and then I can come back and collect him. But if this centre closes, I'll have no choice but either stick my child in front of a TV and let him play games when he comes in from school, or I let him play on the street, because there is nowhere else. The council don't offer any other services for us as parents and children, for our children to use.
The council will save £52,000 a year through this measure, but the campaign is growing as the centre is a haven for many, including an Islamic women's group.
Because this is so important for people like us, any culture of people, any race, anything, their kids, if this closed down, the kids will be on street. That is the bottom line of it. So I just want to say, let's go for it! Yeah!
Welcome back to Windows on the World. Now we're going to talk to Kay, who is in charge of a campaign. Well, you're secretary, I believe, Kay. Is that right?
I am, yes.
The Alton Activity Centre in Wandsworth, we've just been talking about. So, Kay, can you give us a little bit of background on the Alton Activity Centre?
The Alton Activity Centre has been running for a number of years in our local area, which is Roehampton SW15. We've had really good, quite a number of really good years service. I'm a mother of 5 children ranging from the age of 20 to 10, which all of my children have used the centre for over the years. For the last 3, probably near enough 4 years, a company called Spurgeon tendered for it and won the contract. And they've been providing tremendous service, not only as a community, as an activity centre. They actually do outreach work into schools where children are having difficulty settling, and if they've got any outside issues. And now we've been fighting for probably about 7 months to try and keep the services there, because the council were taking the contract back off them at the end of March and they were losing their jobs. So we started a campaign to try and keep it open, but we wasn't successful with that campaign, and Spurgeon's had to vacate the building, and now we're left with a non-existent service where children are now have got nowhere to play safely. They have gone from having every day after school playtime in a safe zone to 2 days a week, where if you're under 8, your parent has to stay with you, and if you're above 8, your children can stay on their own. But it's still a safety aspect that other people's parents are there when your children are there. And we've never had that before, and there's just nothing now. We've got no services or safe play areas for our children to be able to play or to go and talk to anybody. There's nothing other than schools now. I mean, if they want to look at the area in general, they class us as a problem area, but they are creating more problems by taking these services away from our children.
Yes, the thing I was going to ask you there, Kay, was what excuse did they give you about the contract being withdrawn from Spurgeon's?
They haven't. It was to save £60,000 a year.
Right.
And that is all. They didn't come back with anything, because we actually went to the town hall. We went to another place, Mount Angelis, a convent in Roehampton, that was holding a meeting where some council representatives came down, and I asked them what preventative measures they were putting in to fight crime, which it would lead to, and they said they practically said that they would deal with problems arising from the children having nowhere to play in the years that followed. So they're taking away prevention, and they're going to cost the taxpayers more money by sorting out 5 years down the line.
So this place was kind of a hub, really. There's a lot of different things going on there. Can you give us some examples of the activities that were being done there?
They done little sports groups. So they done football tournaments with Regenerate. They went up and used the 3G pitch. They done family orientated days. They done days out. They done one-to-one work in schools and in classes. They done group work. They done bullying. They done street crime. They had people in to do talks. They done a cooking club. They done exercises. So they'd help kids with homework as well, and also the safe environment as well, and to work. They done a lot of work with problem families, but that's what Wandsworth threw in there as well, to say that they would be allocating certain services to problem families. So that is throwing us all under that everyone that lives in Roehampton is a problem family. No, there are working people in this borough, so they've already stereotyped us that we're problem families in every household in Roehampton. That's what they assume that we are.
Well, that would be a ridiculous thing to say anyway, if they were taking away those services, which would obviously they were directing at so-called problem families or people with problems. But
yep.
So
they contradict themselves.
I was just going to say that. Yes, exactly. They have, and there was a lot of people used it to take their kids, really, to get a break so the kids could run about there. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, because in this borough, it is a bit dire. I mean, we're unfortunate to not be able to have a garden, and there is a lot of families with no garden. So really, the centre was the only safe haven for them to take, other than the street or a park that is mostly closed in the good months because it always needs repair work.
So there is the other problem is that there's no food or drink available there now. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. And it's not a major issue, but if kids are coming from school and they've had a school dinner and then that is it till dinner time, you're talking that they're going 6 hours without another drink or a snack at least. Whereas, the council might say, well, it's not really their problem, but they're always throwing up about like malnourished children and saying, we need more food banks. But the service that was there was providing this service, and they've taken that away, and they haven't even given us half of what we had before.
Yes, that's the thing with taking away something. I mean, obviously, if the kids are coming from school and they want to go straight there, that is an inconvenience. That's the reason I brought that up, really. But
yeah,
as far as fighting back, I know that there is a group, and you're kind of secretary of that group, I believe.
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
We've been meeting to see where we go from here. We was hoping to be able to do something in the half term, but a lot of people have been disheartened, thinking that our voices weren't heard, and what steps can we take from here? Because we're not just going to take this lying down. We do need to take this further up the line and hopefully restore a very sensible service back to our community, or should I say a sensible service to our community and our children.
Yeah, what would you say to people who say, oh, well, it's austerity and we have to have austerity? What's your reaction to that?
Laughable. They're unrealistic, very unrealistic, and maybe they need to live a few months in the lives of normal people and not bury their head in the sand.
Well, exactly, yes. I mean, this word austerity, we've talked about it on the show, and what it means is not what they say it means, and we all know that. And council tax goes towards these services. The central government money also goes to these services. So really what they're doing, in my opinion, is stripping out places where people meet and get together, so there's going to be less resistance to social cleansing. Would that be something that you agree with?
Yes, and they're also doing a divide. They're doing a divide and segregating people.
Yes, exactly. That's a big part of it, and we've covered that on previous shows. That's one of the biggest parts of the so-called big society. Is actually about dividing and ruling people, all under this kind of fake agenda of community, or as they call it, communitarianism.
Yeah, because they've taken an adequate service away from us, which was used by, hundreds of children a year, hundreds, if not thousands of children across London. And they're telling us that we don't need that, but we'll give you something else. They're telling us what we need. They don't know us, so they can't tell us what we need.
Well, that's the same in every borough, and I've covered this on many, many shows. And they have change agents within the boroughs who they get working at the local councils, and they're implementing change that nobody really wants. And I think this is becoming apparent. It's happening all over London. It's not just social cleansing and gentrification. It's about the closing off of roads on the back of promoting cycling. It's about all sorts of things that are sold as one thing, and they're actually about another. Would you say that was correct? Is that something that you've noticed in
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think their main aim was obviously to try and save money, but also to give us such a rubbish service that we wouldn't use. So then their real agenda would be, no one's using this building, what can we do with it? Because they won't kick up a fuss because we've alienated all the people that use the service, and then they've got free will to do what they want with the land.
That's exactly how it works. It works on a divide and rule strategy, and people not being in possession of any of the facts. So nobody locally actually knows what's going on until it's too late.
Yep.
Are you finding that?
Yes, because then it's already set in stone, and then all we can do is kick up a bit of a stink, but they want to brush it under the carpet and carry on with their real agenda, which is to do what they want.
Well, yes, it's about this so-called social cleansing, but really what it's about is privatisation of everything and working against the public interest, and that's becoming more and more apparent. So, just to round this up for today, what do you think we can do about it, Kay?
Well, we can keep making noise. We can make a stand, make a noise, try and get as many people involved, and hopefully we can get listened to.
Yes, we did a show called BBC Lies and Lambeth Corruption Exposed, where a public meeting in Lambeth was basically hijacked. Well, no, I wouldn't say hijacked. People were so indignant that they told the council to leave because they'd been given 5 choices of what happened to the estate, and 4 of those choices were withdrawn, and they were just given demolition, and that was actually against a judicial review. A judicial review said you have to give them these choices back, and they just steamrolled it over public opinion, and everyone told them to leave and had no confidence. And I believe you had a similar protest, maybe not as vociferous as that.
Oh, when we had the fun day,
yes,
we actually refused to leave when Spurgeon's asked us to leave because they had to close up. Quite a few parents and children stayed, and we're not leaving, so they had to phone the council, and we was hoping that a council officer would come down, but no one come. They sent a lady from the local children's centre, and we told her that we wasn't leaving, but because it was a spare of the moment decision, we could only stay there until 9 o'clock, and then we had to leave because we wasn't ready for it. It was just because we was just like, well, what should we do? We need to kick up a fuss, and we was hoping to get some publicity, but we failed on that.
I think that's because the mainstream media have a bit of a blackout on this stuff. They don't seem to be really covering any form of protest, and this is again a big part of the PR that they're fed. They're basically reading out PR stories, so it's only sort of alternative media and shows like this one that put things out. As far as the centre goes, at the moment, what services are they actually providing, if any?
Minimal service. It's open 2 afternoons a week, and that is, I think they're 4 hours. But there's, I think I've seen 3 children maximum in there on the few times I've walked past there, one member of staff being outside. So it's not being used, it's going to waste, and then the council have won.
Yes, because their managed decline of the facilities will be used as an excuse to say that no one's using it.
And we can't warrant spending money if no one's using it, so then it will close, and then they'll probably bulldoze it and build flats that no one in the local area can afford.
Which is happening all over London, yes. These techniques used by local authorities are becoming more and more transparent now. They work to a template, and once you know what they're doing, you can actually preempt and see what they're going to do. But people need to wake up to that. So what would you say to people all over the country if they're listening to this about what they should be doing locally?
They should be getting in touch with people that are fighting against council on certain things, or open their eyes and read between the lines and don't believe everything that's written on paper. Investigate yourself. And the thing is, a lot of people think they haven't got a voice, but if you stand together, then your voice will be heard. I think we've opened a lot of people's eyes, but a lot of people were shocked because I don't think some people don't realise how backhanded the council can be, because they kind of slipped it in very minimal about these services being taken away, and then it wasn't until we started our group and they was just like, and then they took it on board that the council are doing this, they're taking away this service.
Yes, yeah, that's part of the tactics really I was talking about. You know, it almost works the same. It's basically you're not in possession of any of the facts, and all of a sudden you find out that what you did has already happened.
Yes.
Well, thanks very much, Kay, for being on
That's
Windows
okay.
of the World, and we wish you the best of luck. All right, thanks, Kay.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
If it wasn't for this place, I don't know how my children would get a bit of exercise. It means the world to me.
There's nowhere else to really go, no parks or nothing. So this centre really means a lot to me.
I haven't got a garden, I'm on the 10th floor.
You get some daylight and some exercise.
Thanks to Windows on the World.
Keep watching those, watching us, watching Windows on the World, and we'll see you soon.